Hello everyone and welcome to another casual review. Today I'm talking about Risk of Rain 2. Now Risk of Rain 2 is basically a 3D version of the original Risk of Rain, at least that's how I understand it. This game also came bundled in with the original. However, I'm only talking about the second version of this game. Maybe down the line I'll do a review about the first one, but it seems like it just moves up a whole dimension to move up to Risk of Rain 2, and there's no need to play the original if you haven't already. The plot is basically non-existent. It's all about gameplay, really, but as far as the intro of the game, there is a distress call on a mysterious planet that's not on any of the planetary charts, I guess, and so we send our troops there to investigate this distress call. Gameplay-wise, this is a roguelite game, and it is from a third-person perspective. Now, most of the time it will be played as a shooter, but as you are able to switch out your different classes, and some classes don't even use guns, I don't know if you can necessarily call it a third-person shooter, but for the most part it is. So on the topic of different characters, starting out you are given one character, the Commando, and he's kind of like the mascot that you will see on all the promotional art. He has this big old space helmet, but as you are playing through the game, you will meet certain requirements, and then you will unlock additional characters that you can choose to do runs with. Think similar to something like Super Smash Brothers, where something like if you clear 20 stages, then you will unlock this character. Now, if you know anything about me and my video gaming abilities, that I probably tended to gravitate towards the character that has an auto-locking system where if I'm just aiming in the general direction, then most of my projectiles, most of my shots will automatically head towards enemies. So that's, I played as the Huntress most of the game, and she was pretty cool. She's kind of playing like a glass cannon where she has very little health, but she does that homing attack as her basic attack, and then she has a different abilities, like one where she dashes forward, one where she shoots like a volley of arrows. So that's just an example of a character, but most of these characters play vastly different than one another, and actually the character that I beat the game with is a character all about punching. So he kind of reminded me of the character Vi from League of Legends, if you've ever played that, where he can like his movement speed is actually kind of low, but he has this charge up attack, and you like dash forward with a punch, and then he has like a grappling hook. He has this little AoE drone thing that does damage to everyone around him. So I surprised myself, but actually that's the character that I was playing when I beat this game, because whenever I unlock a new character, I try out a run with it at least once just to see if it's up my alley. There were a couple other characters that didn't really vibe with me, but there's just so much gameplay variety here with all of the different characters. I kind of wish that I actually just started off with all the characters right off the bat, because there are even some characters that I still haven't unlocked, and I'm not sure if I'm gonna go back just for the sole purpose of unlocking these characters that I may or may not use. But I guess that's just kind of an extra little carrot on a stick to chase after, aside from actually beating the game. Now, each gameplay loop consists of defeating 6 different stages, and each stage is random to a certain degree. Now, I think the actual layout of the stage itself is always the same, but as far as the objects that populate the map in each of these stages, that is randomly generated. So where like upgrades are and where the portal is to progress to the next stage, that's all random. So you are always going to have to do some kind of exploring, and it's probably in your best interest too, because if you ever played a roguelike game like this before, as you are progressing through each stage, you need to be getting stronger. You need to be finding upgrades. You need to be leveling up. There is an experience system in this game, so defeating enemies will give you gold and experience, and then as you are exploring this area, you will come across these chests, and they require a certain amount of gold in order to open up the chest and get the upgrade. There are also these vending machines where you can choose between one of 3 different weapons. Typically, I would try to really try to lean heavily into that glass cannon concept, where I would just go kill them first before they can kill you, and really go into the damage heavy items, and that seemed to work okay for me, although occasionally during the final stage, which is the absolute toughest stage, there are a ton of explosions that could eventually one-shot me, and I think that's why I found so much success playing as this tankier punching guy, because I could actually withstand those blast and actually do a little more damage. So yeah, it's probably in your best interest to go around, kill some guys, and get these upgrades before you find these portals. Every time you activate this portal, you have to stay within its radius for a certain amount of time, and it summons a boss that you have to defeat as well. So probably in your best interest that you really gear up and find the upgrades that you want and level up, so then you can tackle those final stages, because that 6th stage is an absolute beast. That's the one that I would always get stuck at and die at, because all the other stages really didn't give me too much trouble, but for some reason the difficulty ramps up almost too much, in my opinion, on that 6th final stage. Other than that, though, you don't get much progress that carries over from match to match, other than achievements that you can unlock, and then you have the potential, once you finally meet the requirements, to unlock an additional character that you can play as. But other than that, though, don't think it's anything like Hades where you're gonna have stats rolling over, because it's pretty much a fresh start every time you start a new match. And each match will probably last, varying like how long you live, obviously, from about 20 minutes to an hour, depending on like what routes you take and how long you are exploring. And sometimes it just happens where you can't find the portal in the stage, so you're running around aimlessly for a long time. Now, that also might not be in your best interest, though, because there is a timer of difficulty that gets tougher and tougher. When it hits like every 5 minutes, every enemy is going to get significantly stronger, all the way to the end where it's just impossible difficulty unless you're really stacked up in experience and upgrades. So as you progress through the game, you might want to move a little fast. It's kind of an incentive not to just sit there, I guess, because the difficulty will go up as time in the game goes. It doesn't explain a whole lot. It kind of just throws you in trial by fire. So there's some things that I need to look up, like what certain upgrades do and what some of the shrines are. Occasionally you'll find these random shrines, and some of them will give you benefits that you actually want. Like one is called the Shrine of Chance. So if you give it money, there's a chance you won't get an item, but there's also a chance that you will. Or there's this Shrine of the Mountain where you'll fight 2 bosses instead of 1 at once. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, every time you defeat a boss, you get an additional item. So if you're feeling really cocky and you think you can take on 2 bosses at once, then you're going to get 2 items out of it. So it's like that risk and reward kind of style. So I did have to look up a couple of those things. Other than that, though, it's kind of straightforward, and I was able to figure out most of it myself. I do actually feel like most of the upgrades are pretty substantial, though. They actually do stuff. Sometimes when I play roguelike games like this, it's like, oh, increase your damage by 2%, and it's not that big of a deal. In this game, the upgrades will make or break you. So there's a certain degree of luck depending on what kind of items you find, and a certain degree of skill. So sometimes, you just have a crappy run, and it's almost better if you just start over, because the upgrades you're getting aren't the upgrades that you necessarily want. It's the type of game that will really frustrate you if you get a game over, especially if you're about like 40 or 50 minutes into a run and you die. That can be really devastating and a huge hit to your morality, but it's also the type of game that after you like sit away from it for 30 minutes, you kind of start thinking like, maybe I could attempt a run here. Maybe I could try out that new character that I got. And it tends to like suck you back in, because you never know the potential of this next run. Maybe you'll get really lucky and get some really cool upgrades, and it always has that little finger waving you in to try again. And then you get a game over and you get super angry at the game again and need to go for a walk. So there's some high highs and some low lows here. Most of the time during most of my runs, I would feel really cocky by stage 5, and I'd feel really strong, and then you just hit that stage 6 and it kicks your butt. And I just think that the difficulty ramp spikes up way too high in between the stage 5 and the stage 6. Aesthetically, it has this really nice cell shaded look. It's very unique, and it definitely stands out on its own. I like it, and I'm interested to look into Risk of Rain 1, just kind of see that more pixely artistic take to it. I think that would be a fun little exercise after this. I have to rave about the music, though. It is so unique. It's very like if you're watching an 80s movie about the future and it plays all this futuristic music. I actually just recently watched Blade Runner, that 80s movie, and the year that it takes place in is 2019, and it actually plays all of this type of music, this exact same kind of music, where it's like this synthy kind of music, but then this like electrical guitar will come in, and it's very electronic. It's such a unique soundtrack, and I definitely recommend looking into it yourself. Just it's like got this lo-fi, but then like that weird like drum will kick in. It's a little difficult for me to explain, especially because like I don't know that much about music, but I do know that I liked this soundtrack. Other than that though, I feel like it's just a solid roguelite. I think that it would be a lot of fun to play multiplayer, because I think it does allow up to 4 players. Now that will probably make you feel significantly weaker other than playing a single player, but it might be fun doing a couple runs, trying out different characters together. I could see that being a really good time. Single player, I still had a great time, even though it was pretty devastating when I would die. I just think it's solid, and it's definitely worth a investigation if you like these types of games. I think I will give this game a 3 out of 5, just because I kind of wish that there was a little more to it. After maybe like 2 or 3 runs, you are going to start seeing repeats of upgrades and enemies. And granted, when you do unlock a new character, the whole game feels entirely fresh and new once more. But as far as replayability goes, it does get a little old, especially if you were binge playing it like I was, just playing rounds back to back. But the gameplay's solid, the music's good, looks good. It's just a fun game. Well guys, that's it for me. Let me know what you think about Risk of Rain 2. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. Otherwise, I will talk to you later. Bye!